Hi guys, so I've got a chart here from Stats New Zealand and I've put a link to that data in the description. Now I actually find this chart quite fascinating and more than a bit disheartening, I'm afraid. The chart shows the percentage of owner-occupied properties in New Zealand going back to 1991. It shows that in 1991, 73.6% of homes were owner-occupied. Now this means that the person who owned the home lived in the home. It wasn't a rented home. And obviously it's better for more people to own than rent, especially in a country that has so many unscrupulous private landlords. The chart shows that the percentage of owner-occupied homes kept dropping until 2017, where it reached a low of 64.6%. Miraculously, the percentage of owner-occupied homes actually started going up in 2017. And if only that trend could have continued, it would have been superb. Unfortunately though, it was short-lived, and then in 2022 the percentage of owner-occupied homes tragically started trending down again. Now look at this when I add which party was in power and when. Now I am absolutely no fan of Jacinda Ardern, and in fact I'm quite the opposite. I think she did some serious long-lasting damage to New Zealand. But I do like to see this chart rise, and the fact that while she was in power the percentage of owner-occupied homes actually went up is the first time that I do actually have to give her dues, which is hard to do. Now conversely, look at what is happening now to the percentage of owner-occupied homes since 2023. If you've forgotten, Christopher Luxon became Prime Minister in 2023. Unfortunately, this is what happens when you get an extremely pro-landlord Prime Minister in a position of power in New Zealand. The investors start piling back in and once again start taking away the dream of home ownership from your average Kiwi. This means that more and more Kiwis are going to be pushed into a lifetime of renting from a property investor. Is it really any wonder why so many Kiwis have decided to leave if this is their fate? If you can't own a home and have a stake in your country of birth purely because the government made it that way, then what loyalty would you have to the country moving forward? I would suggest absolutely none. Now Luxon knows all of this and he knows what's happening. So if he doesn't want young Kiwis to stay in New Zealand, then why doesn't he just come out and say it? Why bother pretending that he cares when it's so blindingly obvious to everyone else that he doesn't? Now I know there are probably quite a few of you guys who think that I am extremely posh with my posh accent. I know that I sound a bit like King Charles, but in reality I'm from quite a rough working class part of the UK. Now I was over the moon when I left the UK, as I really despise the class system that is still prevalent throughout society there. Now they try and pretend that it's not true, but the elites still rule the UK. And to show you just how much, there is a college called Eton, where for years many of the richest old money elites sent their children. In fact, 20 of Britain's 55 prime ministers were educated there, including Boris Johnson and David Cameron. Now Prince William and Prince Harry also went there, just like many other members of the royal family going back for hundreds of years. Obviously, Boris Johnson and David Cameron were not the most intelligent people in the UK, but the connections they made at Eton allowed them to get where they got. The UK also has the House of Lords, which is jam-packed full of unelected elites. Now, I used to always be jealous of New Zealand and thought that it was going to be so different. I can only imagine that a lot of the early settlers were ecstatic to get away from the UK class system also, and obviously to Maori people it was a complete anathema. Now this is why I cannot believe that the likes of John Key was so desperate to restore knighthoods and damehoods to the New Zealand Royal Honours system. Imagine restoring knighthoods then being knighted not long after. What type of person would do that? Well, I can tell you what type of person. A person who sees some people as more important than others. Giving people titles sets them apart from the general populace. It makes a system where some people are more important than others. A tiered society that has no place in a country like New Zealand. A country that genuinely believes that everyone is equal would absolutely never feel the need to give anyone titles that tries to put them above others. So-called Sir John Key or Dame Jacinda Ardern are no better than any of us guys. So where am I going with this? Well, it's a well-known fact that Christopher Luxon is a very good friend of Mr. John Key. The fact that John Key was so keen on bringing back backward titles and the fact that he has always been very keen on property investment makes me suspect that he may also not be disgusted by the old English feudal system. The feudal system was a hierarchical system where the king was at the top of the tree, followed by the landowners and landlords. The peasants or serfs were at the very bottom of the tree. These would be the equivalent of modern day tenants. The peasants and serfs toiled in the fields all day just to be allowed to live on the land and have somewhere to lay their head. This type of class system took thousands of years to develop, and it was just how things were for most of English history. If you was a peasant or a serf, then that was your lot, and you had to accept that that was your lot. Anyone who dared to get above their station would be smacked right back down again without mercy. Now consider this. The class system is being strengthened in New Zealand. The number of properties in the hands of a few landlords is growing, while the number of serfs or tenants is also growing. What took thousands of years to be introduced into the UK is effectively being introduced into New Zealand in just a matter of decades. In the UK, a number of hereditary peers passed down land over many generations, ensuring that their family was always on top. But in New Zealand, the nouveau elites have locked in their wealth by just buying many properties over the last couple decades, and then they rigged the game to make housing more expensive to lock out the masses. A New Zealand elite have ring-fenced themselves in a privileged position, and they have effectively become the new feudal lords of New Zealand. You will now have generation after generation of privileged offspring inheriting land and rentals, and forever they will be on top of the serfs. Nobody else will be able to afford to break through the class ceiling. This new system is being created by just a few people over the last decades, and we all know who is in on it. Just look at the cocky media celebrities with the bad haircuts and the arrogant rich real estate gurus who parade themselves on their luxury launches thinking they are something special. They have created and been allowed to create a whole new class system in New Zealand. This is a class system that needs dismantling as soon as possible before it becomes too entrenched. Please mark my words, there is nothing good that ever comes from a class system. All it does is vastly increase inequality. New Zealand, you still have a chance to bring fairness back, but you had better be quick before the system takes hold completely. Just look at the number of MPs who are collecting houses. They are all in on it. The way things are heading with the percentage of owner-occupied properties heading south again, you'd better be quick. Seriously guys, if things don't change soon, then in a few years New Zealand will be a country consisting of just a few landlords with everyone else renting from them. And that's what they want. I think the next election is extremely important. If there is anyone out there considering starting a new party, there has never been a better time to do it. There is a giant void that needs filling. So good luck Kiwis, and please do me a favour and give me a like and subscribe, and I will hopefully see you all on the next one. Cheers for that.